Hello, Professor Halsey here, and today we're going to look at our Module 2 active reading. Okay, so here we're starting in Section 2-1 on classes and introduction. If you feel like you need a precursor, feel free to go back to the previous Chapter 1 and read through that as well. Okay. Here it says in real life we look at grouping things, items into objects, and that's what our brains really do naturally, is when we look at something, we tend to place that item in a certain grouping in our brain. Okay, so for this exercise, we just click Start, and it's going to show us that if we want to read along with it, the world consists of items such as wood, metal, fabric, etc. So here we had green fabric on the chairs, wood on the table, the red fabric on the couch, more wood probably here on the floor, and more wood here on the floor, and then it says a metal bar that may be in there or here, I'm not real sure, but those are all different objects or items. Okay, then we'll click on the number 2 and let it go through. Chair, green fabric and wood. Couch is red fabric and wood. Okay, so now they're showing us how we're grouping those things. The drawer is wood and a metal bar. Okay, but people think in terms of higher level objects like chairs, couches, and drawers. So that's why they break it down into chairs, couch, and drawer. And we hit number 3. In fact, people think mostly of the operations that can be done with the objects. For a drawer, operations include putting stuff in, taking stuff out, maybe opening the drawer, closing the drawer. Okay, so to give you an idea, as we were talking about classes, we had the top section, which is the members and the different characteristics of the object, and then at the bottom are the different actions that the object can take. Okay, programs are not viewed as variables and function methods, but as objects. A program consists of variables and functions or methods, but programmers may prefer to think of higher level objects such as restaurants and hotels. So we could then look at a restaurant and the different objects that are different characteristics of a restaurant, different things that it could have. Hotels the same way. Programmers think mostly of the operations that can be done with the objects. So what can the restaurant do, or what can we do to the restaurant, such as giving a hotel or restaurant a name or adding a review. Okay. Creating a program as a collection of objects can lead to more understandable, manageable, and properly executing programs. I would add in it. Creating a program as a collection of objects can lead to a more understandable and properly executing program. Okay, that's interesting sentence there. Some of the variables and functions for a used car inventory program are grouped into an object type named car on lot. Select true if the item should become part of the car on lot object type, and select false otherwise. So a car sticker price, would that be part of the car on lot? And I say yes. It says correct. Today's temperature, other than the fact that it might affect whether I go shopping or not, it's not really part of the car on the lot. The days it's been on the lot, yes, that's a very important detail if you're in car sales. The longer it's there, the more money it costs you. Original purchase price, yes, you want to know how much you paid for it. If you don't, you could end up making too little off of it, and then you'd have a loss. Numb salespeople don't really need to know that to know anything about the car. Increment car days on lot, yes, that may be a function that we have to do at the end of every day. Decrease sticker price, yes. Determine top salesman, or I said yes on that one and then I clicked false. Determine top salesman, no, we don't really need to know that to know anything about the car. Okay, so abstraction, information hiding. Okay, here we're looking at how objects strongly support abstraction and information hiding, and they're talking about objects as we use in programming. Okay, so abstraction simplifies our world. An oven is viewed as having a compartment for food, and a knob is turned to heat the food. People need not be concerned with an oven's internal workings. Example, people don't reach inside to adjust the flame. There was a time that did happen in ovens, though, just if you're as old as I am. I didn't have an oven like that, but I remember my grandmother telling me about it. Similarly, an object has operations that a user applies. The object's internal data and possibly other operations are hidden from the user. So we don't need to know how the heating element works. All we need to know is that we turn the knob and the element turns on. Now I know I've had an element burn out before, and you can tell when it breaks and you turn the knob on and it doesn't come on, then you need to replace it. A car presents an abstraction to a user, including a steering wheel, gas pedal, and brake. Okay. Car's internal workings are complex, but the user need not know those details. Instead, the user focuses on just a few operations: the steering wheel, how it works, the gas pedal, and the brake. A refrigerator presents an abstraction to a user, including refrigerant, gas, a compressor, and a fan. Now, I happen to know how all of those work, but I don't have to know how those work to know how to use a refrigerator. All right. A software object is created for a soccer team. A reasonable abstraction allows setting the team's name, adding or deleting players, and printing a roster. That sounds perfect for a soccer team. A software object is created for a university class. A reasonable abstraction allows viewing and modifying variables for the teacher's name and variables implementing a list of every student's name. I could see being able to do those things, but apparently they're saying their functions completely different from the university class. The variables relate to the inner workings of the university class object. A more reasonable abstraction would be setting the teacher's name, adding or deleting students, and printing a class roster. And see, that's why I picked true, because that's what it says right there. Printing a class roster, implementing a list of every student's name. Isn't that a class roster? Okay, I will keep going. Python automatically creates built-in objects for a programmer to use and include the basic data types like integers and strings. Programmer always interacts with built-in objects when writing Python code. And I hate reading this to you, but it's part of what we're going through, so I have to kind of read as we go along. A string object created with a variable equal to hello, my string, mystr. The value of the string hello is one part of the object, as are functions to operate on that string, like string is digit and string dot lower. Okay, so let's look at this. Defining a new string, S1 creates a new built-in string object. The string object groups together the string value hello, exclamation points, two of them, along with useful functions. Is digit, is ASCII, is lower, starts with, is upper, split, format, and swap case. Those are all things I can now do to S1 because it's a string. Okay, defining a new integer I1 creates a new built-in int object. The implementation of the int object abstracts many details that a programmer doesn't need. The absolute value, the float, complex, and the power. Okay, the Python programming language provides a built-in object for strings. Yes, it does. Built-in objects often include useful functions. Yes, they do. The built-in string object includes every function a programmer could ever find useful for dealing with strings. Nah, there may be some you have to write on your own. All right, we'll stop here and come back with section 2.2 next. Thank you.